Many Christians cannot discern between biblical Israel and the current Antichrist Israel. This is a big deal. This is a really big deal. They made these statements, the Balfour Declaration, signed by Lord Baron Rothschild, who donated the land. We used England to be the tool to create this. The Rothschilds created a political state. This was 50 years after the start of what's called the Zionist movement, which is an anti-Christian, anti-Christ movement. They hate biblical Christianity. They hate Jesus. They blaspheme his worthy name. They say that Jesus is burning or burned in hell for 12 months because he rejected what the Pharisees said. That he's burning in excrement, they said. Horrible blasphemy. Because he rejected the oral tradition of the sages, the Pharisees. Today, unfortunately, many Bible-believing Christians, and I understand that today the word Christian has become such a vague banner that many people hang under. Well, it was the same way with Israel, in that the nation of Israel fell away. Judah remained, but it became Judea, a Roman province. The religion of the Jews existed, but it wasn't the same. The bloodline was polluted. God's punishment was on them. He said, I'm going to divorce you. And in the Old Testament, he says, if you divorce someone, you don't go back to them. I mean, God has all these laws about it. It's very fascinating. But today, most Bible-believing Christians, even saved brethren, think that it's our job to go to war for a political nation called Israel, and they are not the Israel of the Bible by any stretch of the imagination. And they don't have the discernment to see what the scriptures say about who God's chosen people are. And they say, oh, 1948, that was fulfilled. In 1948, by the Rothschild family, the banking elitists that try to keep everybody poor and they want to depopulate the whole world. Ever since we started blessing this Antichrist Israel, very shortly after that, we're entered into a war. Most can't discern the truth. I remind you that the first place that the word Jew is used in the Bible, in 2 Kings 16, it says that the Jews were at war with Israel. We can't discern between Israel and Judaism. We can't discern between bloodline and faith. The false Messiah of this rejected Israel will reveal himself in Jerusalem. This is the prophecy that's going to come. This is important. Today there are Christians and even fake Christians that are sending money to Israel to help build the Antichrist kingdom. Current day Israel speaks Yiddish Hebrew, not biblical Hebrew. The Hebrew that they're speaking is not the Hebrew, and the old Hebrew was a dead Hebrew. Restored Hebrew, which is what they call it, is an invented language by a Russian named Eliezer Ben Yehuda. This man was born only speaking Yiddish. His son, Ben Zion, Ben Yehuda, was forced to only learn the new tongue. And so what he did was he began to manipulate it and say, well, I think this sounds like this, and I think this sounds like that. He created many new pronunciations that had never existed previously. His son began saying words in Hebrew in ways his father had never heard. Those ways that he pronounced things to now has been codified as a language called Hebrew. But Hebrew was dead. Hebrew was a dead language even in the time of Jesus, because many of the Hebrew slaves were taken into other nations and they learned their tongue. The tongue of the Chaldeans, or Syriac, or Aramaic is probably what Jesus and his disciples spoke. Many times when they read the Old Testament scriptures, they would have to interpret it because the people didn't understand it. The day of Pentecost, Acts chapter 2, 17 different languages are listed there. They were coming from other regions, and it was a miracle of God that everybody could speak and hear the same language, and it was for the purpose of hearing the gospel that Christ had come, and salvation was available to them. Current day Israel teaches from the Babylonian Talmud, not the Bible. They don't have the first 5 books. They have a different set of 5 books, and it is not even in the Bible. Current day Israel teaches from the Talmud, the Midrash, the Zohar, the Kabbalah, and the Mishnah. These are their so-called holy books. They are perverse and unholy. Necromancy, sodomy, child abuse, theft, justified murder for anybody that doesn't believe like them. They say that the Goyim, anybody that doesn't believe like them, doesn't even have a soul. We're just cattle to them. This is the mystical pagan religion that we saw in Egypt and in Babylon. They carried it out of Babylon. They call it the Babylonian Talmud. Current day Israel is searching for a new Christ king and a spiritual prophet, which ought to wake you up when you realize that in Revelation 13 and 14, it lines out that there's going to be, or it's really 12 and 13, I should say, the false Christ and a false prophet is exactly what the Bible says. Today, Israel says, we're looking for Ben Joseph and we're looking for Ben David, and David will be our king and Joseph will be our prophet. Current day Israel is Antichrist. Current day Israel is not the bloodline of the biblical Israel tribes. Most of them are German, Belarus, Russian, Ukrainian. Current day Israel is not the religion of God's chosen people. Current day Israel is a fraud. Christians should not support the political movement known as Zionism. It is anti-Christianity. Most Christians have been deceived into supporting it.